I call to order the Highland Park Board of Education Hybrid Workshop Voting Meeting today, Monday, December 22nd, 2025. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the Highland Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting, setting forth the time, date, and location to be submitted for publication to the Home News Tribune and Courier News and posted on the board's website at least 48 hours in advance of this meeting. Members of the public who wish to address the board will be given an opportunity to do so before the board adjourns for the evening. May I have roll call, please? Dr. Reed.
Here.
Here.
Dr. Higgins.
Here.
Ms. Bruce.
Here.
Dr. Stillman. Ms. Samuel.
Here.
Ms. Gardner. Ms. Gordon.
Here. We will now recess to executive session. Be it resolved pursuant to the Sunshine Act, NJSA 10:4-12 and 13, the Highland Park Board of Education will now meet in closed session to discuss the matters related to HIB and also to read in one legal matter. These exemptions are permitted to be discussed in closed session in accordance with NJSA 10:4-13. Information regarding the board's closed session discussion will be disclosed to the public as soon as there is the need for confidentiality, as soon as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. I move that we recess to executive session. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hold on. You're wearing a short sleeve shirt up.
I know.
Should
not have done that.
We're getting there.
Actually, make
Large space between, so this is 72. So if I split everybody out.
Ready? I move that we reconvene to regular session.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Beatty.
Here.
Mrs. Salomon.
Here.
Dr. Holmes. Dr. Higgins.
Here.
Ms. Bruce.
Here.
Dr. Stillman.
Here.
Ms. Samuel.
Here.
Ms. Gardner. Ms. Gordon.
Here. Stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right, we had one communication since the last meeting from Elizabeth Wall Greenberg asking to please reverse the decision regarding CPAC meetings, community letter. Number 9 on our agenda is approval of minutes for the hybrid voting public meeting and executive session from November 24th, 2025. I move that we approve those minutes.
Second. Dr. Beatty.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Bruce. Yes. Dr. Stillman.
Yes.
Ms. Samuel.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes. And we'll now have our student representative report.
I'll start us off with updates from Irving. This month has been a busy one at Irving. They started their Scholastic Book Fair and appreciate the PTO for their time and energy. They've had multiple family evenings, including craft night that involved our mayor and borough officials, the Highland Park Police Department, and Highland Park Public Library. Following this, they had an HPEA fast sponsored by Family Fit Night. They're gracious for all the co-donations that have helped many of their families. Patient support services at Robert Wood Johnson Hospital collected clothing, coats, and miscellaneous items for Irving students that will be a part of our Operation Snowflake donations to our families. Again, the gift of giving was so appreciated, and they are thankful they chose us. Lastly, a huge congrats to our Teacher of the Year, Miss Amanda Morero, and our Educational Services Professional, Miss Katrina Duggan, wishing our board and community a beautiful holiday season.
As for Bartle, they said, thank you to HPEA FAST for sponsoring the Family Fit Night for the Irving and Bartle families. We kicked off our Defy the Cold attendance quest. Each week, the homeroom with the highest attendance percentage will earn 10 points toward their team and Emerald Games. Brave the cold, show up, and keep the momentum going all winter long. Congratulations to our Teacher of the Year, Miss Oltar, and our Educational Services Professional of the Year, Nurse Nanda. And thank you to our PTO and Nurse Nanda for organizing Operation Snowflake to support our families this holiday season. A big thank you to our community for all the donations. Wishing our Bartle and Highland Park community a wonderful holiday season.
Moving on to the middle school, they had a great spirit week leading up to the break. Last week they had pajama day, dress your favorite teacher, rhyme day, professions day, and twin day. But they also had a holiday sweater day and will have their color wars for the pep rally. This year, they'd like to recognize middle school pride, the core values they believe help their school and students grow. December is integrity, and this week's winners were Kai Hernandez, Talia Fernandez, and Nadia Montes. Congratulations. And they'd also like to remind everyone of the following PTSO dates, which is the Cookie Walk on December 20th and a holiday cards fundraiser that will run through the first week of January. And they were able to help collect gift cards and some gifts for 10 of their students through Project Snowflake and are grateful for that.
And lastly, the high school said December has been a busy month with their school play Peter Pan and Wendy, as well as our winter concerts. All performances were incredible and we're constantly impressed with the talent of our students and staff. Winter sports are also off to a strong start, and Dr. Mark encourages families to come on out and support our teams. The high school PTSO is running the Cookie Walk on December 20th. This is a wonderful new event. Please spread the word. It already happened, but additionally, they are running their annual holiday card fundraiser. Cards are available in the main office. Door decorating at the high school is underway, and although the winner wasn't known at the time this was written, we are thinking Dr. Donovan's Stranger Things themes should have won, and this is written by Dr. Donovan. So happy holidays from the high school.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's it. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Real quick, you said there's a new event. It was a walk. I couldn't quite hear what that was.
Sorry.
Yeah, we were talking about the Cookie Walk
Okay,
by the PTSO on December 20th. Yeah.
okay.
Very successful.
I was gonna say, I wanted part of it.
I know.
They could go.
I spent $40 on cookies. Just so you know.
Okay, okay.
They were like that many. I'm like, yes. It was a huge success. So it's nice to see like new events like that being so successful. Okay, we're now going to move to our superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone, and happy holidays. I can't believe we're in the home stretch here heading into winter break. And tonight I am really pleased to welcome Miss Caitlin Brady, our middle school principal, to spotlight a very well-deserving middle school student. So Miss Brady, the podium is all yours. Good evening. So it's always an incredible honor to speak about someone, especially when it's one of our Highland Park Middle School students. Asena Erkin is a staple in the middle school community and as such is incredibly deserving of this recognition. Tonight I have the privilege of sharing how Asena has positively impacted her classes and Highland Park Middle School community. I want to read each of these. I'll tell you who they're from. They're all of your teachers and the adults in the building. So the first one is from Miss Maroon, who said Asena is a remarkable student whose positive influence is felt throughout the classroom. She is well liked by her peers and consistently serves as an outstanding role model. Asena approaches every assignment with a commitment to doing her best, demonstrating a strong work ethic that inspires those around her. As an active participant, she contributes meaningfully to discussions. Her dedication and positive attitude makes her a respected member of the HPMS student body. Ms. Donatov said, Asena is an exceptionally responsible and hardworking student in my personal finance class. Her eagerness to learn is evident in the high quality of her work. What truly sets Asena apart is her professional level of accountability. Whenever she's absent, she takes full ownership of her missed assignments and proactively follows up with thoughtful questions to ensure she has mastered the material. She's a pleasure to have in the classroom. Ms. Begonia said Asena possesses a gracious and kind nature. Besides being polite and respectful to others, she's also a phenomenal ELA student. After every writing strategy we learn, Asena immediately incorporates it beautifully into the next assignment. Her academic vocabulary and writing style are truly sophisticated. She is a joy to have in class. Mr. Kaiser said Asena is an extraordinary student who possesses a great creativity and passion for learning. She always demonstrates a keen motivation for whatever task is assigned to her. Academically, she is quick to understand and retain the content and apply it to her work, all the while showing great respect for her peers in the classroom. She is also a fantastic artist. Apparently, she painted Mr. Kaiser's cat as George Washington. It's a pleasure to have Asena as a student, and she is an indispensable member of the HPMS community. Mr. Berglund shared that Asena consistently comes to class ready to participate and gives her best effort during all activities. She demonstrates good sportsmanship, follows class expectations, and shows respect toward classmates and staff. Whether it's encouraging others, trying new skills, or staying positive during challenges, Asena sets a great example in our PE class. Ms. Cheney said, I have known Asena ever since she was a second grader at Bartle. Asena has an interesting story. She came from China and is of the Uyghur culture. The Uyghur language is not related to Mandarin Chinese, but is closely related to Turkish and Uzbek. I've had the pleasure of being her ESL teacher while at Bartle, and in 2 years, she exited the program with success. I am happy that I have her now in my class this year for Spanish. Asena has always been a reliable, attentive, and excellent student who always tries her best. She is also a very talented and amazing artist who creates beautiful and impeccable sketchwork. More importantly, Asena is a kind, thoughtful, and determined young person with integrity who brings quiet strength and positivity into the classroom every day. I'm incredibly proud of how far she's come, and I know she will continue to do great things. I encourage her to continue with her study of Spanish and eventually receive the state seal of biliteracy in Spanish and Uyghur upon graduating from high school. Mr. Spino, who was the one who immediately recommended Asena for this, said Asena is an exemplary student in every sense. As both a peer leader and peer mediator, she approaches her responsibilities with maturity and dedication. She even chose to attend a summer leadership program to strengthen her skills. Academically, she's a strong, motivated learner who consistently works hard to maintain her grades. She's also friendly and inclusive, building positive relationships with students from many different backgrounds. Overall, Asena is a remarkably well-rounded individual and is an excellent choice for Student Spotlight. And finally, I'll share what Ms. Lane shared, which she said Asena is an integral member of the 8th grade peer leadership team and HPMS community. She is responsible, kind, and a wonderful role model. She seeks out opportunities to develop leadership skills and was one of the 7 middle school and high school students who attended a 3-day leadership training conference at TCNJ in the summer. Asena shared what she learned with the rest of our peer leadership team and helped plan and lead activities on leadership styles of communication. She brings positive energy wherever she goes and approaches every challenge with a positive attitude. I'm incredibly fortunate to have the privilege of getting to know Asena and working with her as a peer leader. So I'd like to congratulate Asena for an outstanding job in Highland Park Middle School.
All right, congratulations again, Asena. Very well done. It was so amazing to hear all those wonderful things. Keep up the amazing work and being a star owl. Thank you. Tonight, we also have another very special person to acknowledge. So I am incredibly proud to honor our esteemed board member, Ms. Jennifer Voorhees. as she concludes her term on December 31st. I want to take this opportunity to express my deepest appreciation about what her service has meant to us all. Jen joined the board in 2023, and from day one, she jumped right in. She brought her time, her energy, and her thoughtful voice to so many important areas: finance and facilities, equity and excellence, curriculum instruction, policy and regulations. And as chair of personnel and communications, she guided conversations with a calm, grounded perspective that helped move our work forward. Her service as a liaison to the Board of Health and the Highland Park Athletic Boosters strengthened our relationships with the borough and helped keep our community connected. But beyond the list of committees and titles, what stands out most is the way Jen has carried herself. She listened carefully, she asked the right questions, she treated people with respect, and she never lost sight of why we're here: our students, our staff, and this amazing community we care so deeply about. Jen, your voice has mattered, your perspective has mattered, and your willingness to show up, even on the long nights and through the tough conversations, has made our district better. While we miss having you at this table, we're truly grateful for everything you've poured into this role. I know you didn't really want anybody to say anything, so so I will wrap it up by just saying, I would like everyone who is left here in the room to please join me in thanking Jen for her dedication, her kindness, and the positive impact she's made on the district. We wish her all the very best in the journey ahead. Thank you. And will you please join me at the podium? I have a plaque for you. I would just like to take it forward. My actual superintendent report concludes. I would like to open up to the board to see if anybody else would like to echo my sentiments for Ms. Voorhees.
Yes, I would. Very briefly, I would just like to thank Jen for everything that she has brought to the board. It's been a privilege being on the board with you for the last 3 years. And when I was thinking about all of the wonderful things that Christina said you contributed, one of them really sticks out to me, which is just the way that the board has shifted in paying attention to communication. And that's because of you. And just like the way that you are able to see when there's too much or too little or inconsistencies or, you know, opportunities where things could be improved. I really do think that, you know, what we've done in trying to improve communication really started when you joined the board. And so I'd just like to thank you for that contribution.
Thank you so much. I feel like I should be thanking all of you for staying on. I'm definitely leaving the board, I feel like, in a much better place than it was when I first joined. I mean, it's always been a great working body, but this is a really very special group of people. And I think you're going to continue to do great things. So thank you.
That concludes my report. Okay, and we'll move on to the auditor's presentation. Mr. Rosa, would you like to kick that off for us?
Will present our audit 2025 school year. I will be there. It's also okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Weiss. I'm the lead auditor who comes and audits the district annually. I'm from BKC CPAs. And my job tonight is to take our big book that most of us have in front of us and boil it down into some financial highlights and some charts to give an overall gauge of how the district did performance-wise this year and where surplus is. I find the best place to start is with revenues. And by looking at our screen in our handouts, our first page, we can see that revenues are up about $883,000 compared to last year. And I see 3 or 4 things worth highlighting here because a couple of things are affecting every district I go to, regardless of the bigger ones, the smaller ones. And I see that in the interest and other miscellaneous column. That's down a little bit. And Highland Park is consistent with all my other school districts as far as interest on bank accounts being down. And it's the same thing with federal special revenue. If we go all the bottom right, the amounts right before the total, we can see that we're down about $390,000. And that definitely met our expectations because the ARP ESSER grants sunsetted early in the 2024-2025 year. That federal revenue stream has dried up. And we will, when we look at some of our bar charts a little later on in our presentation, we'll get a sense of where the trend is really going to be on federal funding. Another thing worth pointing out is the increase in special revenue fund for state aid. We can see we had 1.4 million in 24-25 versus about 785,000. And the preschool expansion aid really has taken off with a lot of my districts. No surprises coming to Highland Park tonight. And we'll see the effect of that bump a little further on in our presentation as well. Any questions, comments on revenues compared this year to last year before we dive into some of our charts? Okay. We can scroll to the next slide, please, Denise. Thank you so much. And there's our pie chart, right on the upper left-hand corner. And we can see that the revenue stream is primarily a 1-2 combination. The 1-2 combination being the real estate tax levy and state aid that the district receives. We can see that there's a smaller red wedge for federal sources, which is going to get smaller in the coming years. And our yellow wedge making up our miscellaneous revenue of things like interest, tuition, and things of that nature. Going to the right, we wanted to take a look at the tax rate. And as we can see from 2022 to 2023, we have a big dive for everybody, and that's due to the revaluation in the borough. The one thing we can control is the blue line, and that's it. That's the local school tax levy. Green line being the municipal tax levy and purple line being the county tax levy. We can see that we have a bit of a bump over the last 2 years. That bump will go up in 25-26. And it's related to another conversation that I'll touch on here and get into a bit more and that I'm having with most of my school districts. And that's the effect of the increase on health benefits, because this is going to touch everybody, regardless of what system you're in. Looking at some of our bar charts, we see the tax levy is pretty straight, pretty consistent. Our state sources are up over the last couple of years. There's been a bit more in equalization aid over the last couple of years. We also had a bit of a bump in 2022 for a one-off, a non-recurring revenue stream for maintenance of equity aid. If we move to our federal sources, our red bar charts, we can see the effect of the ARP ESSER grants from 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, and sunsetting in 2025. Going forward, I think activity primarily from 2018 through 2021 is going to be a bit more realistic as far as what we can expect with federal funding. State aid preschool. District has always had a bit more until the state expanded preschool for just about everybody. And Highland Park is no exception. A bit of a bump in 2024, a much bigger bump in 2025, and the party continues in 2026. We're going to get about the same, roughly the same amount. Our tuition, interest, and other interest has been up and has been ticking up for most of my school districts for 23, 24, 25, a little bit of a dip between this year and last year. Other than that, no real surprises. Any questions, comments on revenues before we dive a bit more into the appropriations and expenditures?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you explain the tuition, interest, and other, what that is? Why it's
Sure.
other?
Sure. If we go to our book to exhibit J5, and it's towards the back, should be at or around page 112.
You're serious?
We're going to find out in about a minute because I have an old table of contents.
That's what is known as a flex.
Yeah.
By the way, my favorite part of the book is the statistics section part. Exhibit J5.
I don't know.
Oh, this is everything you want to know about Highland Park over the last 10 years is in our statistics section. So, yeah, well, exhibit J5 is where we're zeroed in. And we can see the items comprising miscellaneous income. Now, what's not on here, which is important, is some money we received from a local grant, primarily for the renovations to a baseball field. That's about $160,000. We can't expect that every year.
It's not like. That makes sense.
Yeah.
To clarify, it's like donations, grants. You can see here if we get tuition for students, if we sell assets, we get energy rebates, things like that.
Any other questions, comments, concerns on revenue before we move on?
The fact that on the tax rates, that big drop, that's not money that we got into the district. That's
No.
That's just the value of properties that drop theoretically based on, I mean, what is that drop?
Oh, just speak into the microphone, Marilyn, so people at home can also hear you.
What is the blue line that drops from 2022 across?
What happens is, when the real estate values go under a certain percentage, the county compels you to do a revaluation of real property. So the property was undervalued, quote unquote, undervalued for years. The municipality did a revaluation of that real property. So the total money raised for taxation really didn't change that much.
Right.
But the tax rate that it's based on, you can see fluctuates wildly between 2022 and 2023.
Okay. It's the rate that the property is being taxed will change.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments before we move on to expenditures appropriations? Okay. Moving on from our financial highlights. And I'm so happy to see it's 2024, 2025. I had them all printed out and it said 23, 24 and blew a gasket in the office earlier, but they're all fixed now. So from 10,000 feet up, we can see that operating expenditures were about $1 million less than the prior year. And what's happening here are two things. First of all, pupil transportation is down about $350,000. And a lot of that is the effect of less students participating in non-public transportation programs. A, reimbursements to parents for those eligible to get it, and B, the transportation costs of transporting such children. Those were the two expenditure lines that primarily went down in transportation. Something different in Highland Park than I noticed with my other districts. I'm not going to talk about how health benefits was materially over where it was last year, and that's because in 23-24, at the end of the year, the district changed from New Jersey State Health Benefits to another provider. Thank God, because the increase,
Thank you, Denise.
the increase in New Jersey State Health Benefits this year, because some of my towns are dealing with this who can't get out of New Jersey State Health Benefits, will be over 30%. That's 30. Now, Highland Park, we were a little bit down in health benefit costs compared to last year, and that's just the effect of changing systems. We had a full year of the new provider versus almost a full year of New Jersey State Health Benefits last year. Now, what we can expect in 25-26, the budget is about $4.983 million. And this is just the general fund. This doesn't count what's being allocated to things like the preschool program. That's a bump up of a little over $750,000 compared to our actual cost last year. So Highland Park is going to be feeling the pinch on that as well, just not this year, much more in 25-26, the year we're in now. Going down past the operating expenditures to our capital outlay, and these things do change from year to year depending on what our capital priorities are. This year, the priorities were the roof replacement projects, which the district is getting some New Jersey SDA money on, and some HVAC projects. We also had several other smaller projects, such as the baseball field renovations we talked about earlier, camera system upgrades. We bought a new tractor, Bartle Playground's finished. All that stuff goes into the pot of that 1.373 mil. Any questions, comments, concerns before we look at some charts? Yes.
All right. Couple of questions. Could you say again what the pinch is we're going to be feeling next year, what that and why that is going to occur?
The pinch is the health benefit costs. And that is going to be felt by everybody, every school district, my employers at BKC. The health benefits are just going up for everybody.
Okay. Well, it could have been 30. I have a question. So the transportation costs went down, but charter school tuition went up. I thought that most of the transportation was to charter schools. So no, so
We have we have a lot of non-publics as well.
okay. And that's just kind of like you can't control that really. That's just sort of random that some students. Yes.
Yeah, so we have to transport those
students
to their.
Right, and just sort of, it happens, it happened to happen this year that we had fewer of them, but it's nothing we can really plan for.
Or student enrollment is down as well, so we transport, students that live in another state, we transport them to school. If it's an IMP, transport to school, and out of district placements, so I believe in 24 to 25 our out of district placements were down from the prior year. But I don't know.
Thanks.
Just a comment, which is, when I look at this, the tuition has gone up, which is good, right? Those are maybe not.
These are kind of things.
Okay. So tuition is that,
Tuitions for out-of-district students.
okay. Okay.
Decrease, but the cost of that.
Yeah. I was gonna say, cost of the tuition is going up.
Okay. And then students and instruction related services, what is that?
We're going to dive into students and instruction related services on the very next slide. Any other questions, comments before we move on to a couple of pie charts?
Yes, Lami and I were wondering what the decrease in student activities and scholarships entails.
Student activities and scholarships, revenue and expenses walk hand in hand. If we raise money, say 10,000 for the ski club, we expect to see $10,000 in expenses. If we go back to our first thing, we can see that student activity revenue, which is about halfway down, is down about $67,665. So we have that much less coming in. If we look at student activities here, we have about $49,000 less going out. My expectation has been met as far as student activities. Now, if I have no money coming in and a whole lot of money coming out, okay, the bells and whistles are going to go off. In this instance, the activity funds are functioning the way they're supposed to function. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if it answers your question because I don't understand, but does it mean less students are participating in activities? Or has nothing to do with number of students?
Student activities are funds that are raised by students, all your fundraisers, you raise money to go on trips, field trips, model event, so the less money you raise, it's expected the less money that you spend. So it kind of works in hand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So like a fair overarching statement here is that in a world where expenditures are often going up, we were able to maintain that and ours didn't, right? It seems like this is actually a good thing that our expenditures didn't go up. They actually went down from 23, 24.
The total operating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems like a real good thing. Okay. I'm just trying to. So good. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too.
If we can scroll down a bit more, Denise, to our pie charts. We'll start at the top. Whenever I go to a district, my expectation is that my pie chart for expenses should be 75% of the way full of green, blue, and purple wedges. I'm not disappointed in coming to Highland Park tonight. We can see that the green wedges represent our regular and special education costs. Our dark blue wedge represents tuition. Our light blue wedge represents students and instruction-related services. Well, what do we mean by that? Here's what we mean. We mean the school nurse. We mean the guidance counselors. We mean the child study team. We mean extraordinary services related to severe children with severe needs. The library, all of that goes into that category. And the purple witch are employee benefits, which I expect will be larger next year. Now that I know where the money is going by function, I want to see where the money is actually going to. And I'm, again, not surprised coming to Highland Park tonight. I expect my pie to be about 70 to 75% full of purple and dark blue. The salaries and employee benefits, the straw that stirs the drink for every district I go to. Everything else pales in comparison. We can see things like 6% for transportation, 9% for purchase services. That includes things like your attorney, your auditor, things of that nature. 2% on supplies, 4% for cleaning, repairs, and maintenance should significant repair bills come in, or your utilities, and 9% for tuition out of district. Moving on to our next set of bar graphs.
I'm sorry. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Numbers, wacko. So I'm looking at the top pie chart.
Yes.
And I'm seeing some numbers correlate with the Excel on the previous slide, but some not. And I'm just trying to understand, like, student instruction related services, the numbers are a little different. And then is it just the way you're breaking it down? I'm just trying to understand.
I think the student instruction and related services may have student activities on our pie chart, may include student activities on our pie chart, but not include student activities.
Okay, and then and then I see you're also breaking down special education instruction, which isn't included on the other. Okay, I'm just trying to, like, maybe we can talk offline. Yeah. The question was, yeah.
It actually matches that. That is the.
Any other questions before I move on to some of the bar charts? Okay, if we can scroll down a bit more, Denise, right past our pie chart there, and we'll start looking at some 10-year trends. And we can see that the regular and special education instruction lines relatively steady over the last couple of years. Tuition, our dark blue lines, we talked about the bump there a little bit earlier. Student and instruction related services. This is where I'm seeing a bit more of the PK come in on my districts, particularly on things like the additional salaries you have to pay for family management and things of that nature. We also have a bit of a bump in extraordinary special education services costs. Administration, in our red line, had a little bit of a bump this year, and that's a bit of a one-off because we paid the architect about $131,000 based on a project that I don't expect we'll be doing that every year. A little bit of a decrease in the plant operations and maintenance between this year and last year. You can see there was a little bit of a bump in 2024. We had the water and sewer hookup fees for one of the mod units. We're not going to have that every year. We saw that pupil transportation, our yellow lines are ticking down a bit. And our employee benefits are ticking down a bit for 2025. And as we mentioned earlier, my expectation is going to be much closer to 2024 when this conversation is had next year. Any more questions, comments, concerns on appropriation and expenditures before we dive into fund balance? Okay. Oh, yes, sir.
Do you see because you see so many more districts than I've seen, in terms of the ratio of regular instruction and special education, I'm just curious whether you see, it looks like about
Highland Park is pretty even with everybody.
Yeah, it's
Most of the top part of my pie chart starts out looking pretty much the same as far as how that fills out with regular and special education instruction. Any other questions, comments? We'll talk some fund balance. Okay. So our financial facts. Between this year and last year, we had an increase in general fund balance of $1.278 million compared to last year. Well, where did that money go? We can see capital reserve got bumped up. And what happened there was we took a little bit of money out to fund some capital projects. And then put a lot of money back in to finance projects that we're going to need this year. Now, my friend Bill Colantano had a great line that I'm going to steal tonight. I'm going to show you what you have before I take it away from you. You have $4.8 million in capital reserve. When the calendar went from June 30th to July 1st, 2.281 million of that was budgeted out. You have a significant repair going on at the Bartle School right now that's going to require millions of dollars to fix. So it's nice that you had that capital reserve available to you with the hope that these reserves all regenerate themselves. We're not one-trick ponies, and we can maintain a healthy reserves and meet our capital needs without having to go to our taxpayers for bond issuance, or if we do, maybe we can ask for a little bit less. I'm going to circle back to excess surplus of about 425,000, because in the state of New Jersey, you can't have too much money. And we're going to go over that at the end of our presentation. Our encumbrances are up a little bit between this year and last year, and we awarded a contract for toilet room alterations at Bartle School. That's most of that encumbrance. And if we think about it, we've got to award the contract and do a lot of the work in the summertime when the students are not in school. That represents about $196,000 of that encumbrance. If we look towards the bottom, we have unrestricted fund balance of $920,000. That's a decrease of from 1.368 million last year. Now, I said earlier in our talk about fund balance, you can't have too much money in the state of New Jersey. The state limits you as to what you can have in your quote unquote free surplus or unrestricted surplus. That is 2% of your operating expenditures. And if we remember from our earlier conversation, expenditures are down a little bit for the district, plus your unbudgeted state aid, if it's extraordinary special education cost aid and non-public transportation aid. What happened with Highland Park this year is we budgeted a little bit more money in extraordinary special education cost aid. When that happens, that excess that you receive over budgeted goes down. And when numbers were finally tallied, we have about $425,000 or 424,924 to be exact in excess surplus. Money that when the business administrator starts working on her budget, 424,924 will automatically populate as fund balance anticipated as revenue. Any questions, comments before we start diving into some charts?
Just learning a lot from you today. Is there a recommended amount to have in capital reserves as it relates to your expenditures? Or I'm just curious if there
varies from district to district to district.
much as possible.
I always encourage the bank as much as possible. Listen to your administrators as far as what your needs are for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years and where that reserve should be.
But is there a limit on how much we can have?
Yes, there is. And we're going to, actually, that's going to be the last slide. So we got a little bit of a spoiler alert here.
We're here for this.
You are limited in your capital reserve. You are limited to the amount of projects in your long-range facility plan that is not funded by state aid, which is approximately 60% of the projects in your long-range facility plan, as just as a 1,000 feet up baseline estimate.
You said excess surplus, which we can't have that money in there. That money has to go somewhere else.
The money automatically goes back to the good taxpayers of Highland Park. That there's that much less we will have to raise in taxes for the 26-27 budget. Moving on to our pie chart on the next slide.
You give her one job, Bob. You give her one.
She's banging up job tonight. That's gonna get some applause, isn't it? Okay, so as our wedges go from green to blue, the money gets less restricted. And we can see the darkest green part, our restricted excess surplus. That money is already earmarked for 26-27 budget, already anticipated. Our restricted surplus, we talked about earlier, the amount that we can have in capital reserve for projects in our long-range facility plan. The emergency expense reserve, money, as it says, should, God forbid, something bad happen, that money is there for you. It's very difficult to get out once you put it. It can be taken out for, obviously, emergencies if it meets this, a very strict standard, and excess health benefit costs. I've seen business offices successfully get it out. Should there be a health benefits cost hardship, and a lot of districts are going to have that. It's coming up here. The district is self-insured for unemployment funds. What that means is when those claims come in, if and when they come in, funds are set aside to pay for said claims. Our committed fund balance represents our encumbrances that we spoke about earlier, primarily the project for the Bartle School toilet rooms. Our assigned fund balance, 1.4 million, that's surplus set aside additionally that will be used as a budget revenue to offset any major tax increase. And our unassigned fund balance of 920,000, that's what we have left after everything else is divvied up. When looking at our trends below in our bar charts, we can see that encumbrances can fluctuate year to year. And a lot of times when we see bumps, it has to do with capital projects that are awarded towards the end of the year. Our assigned fund balance, that represents that amount of surplus that we are already setting aside as a budget revenue in subsequent budget years. We can see that our unrestricted surplus ticked down. We talked about the difference between this year and last year earlier. And 2021 and 2022 were a bit unique. What the state of New Jersey did was say, rather than take 2% of operating expenditures, we're going to do 4% of operating expenditures. So we can see that those numbers for 2021 and 2022 are kind of high compared to the other years. Once things got slightly less crazy with COVID, the state said, okay, party's over, you're back to 2%, which is what we see the effect of 2023 and 2024. Any questions, comments? Okay. Moving on to the reserves and just how much we can have in our reserves. The green line represents where we are, and the red line represents how far we can go. As we can see, there's the district's long-range facility plan is at 12 million. We're at about 4.5 million, but as we said earlier, over 2 million of that is gone at this point. Our maintenance reserve, we're limited to how much we can have in there based on building square footage. And we can see that it's been level over the last couple of years. Emergency expense reserve, common baseline is a 1% of operating expenditures. The district has traditionally kept that one kind of low and has used it as needed over the years.
That says that we have less in reserve, that we could have more in reserves if we have money.
Mm-hmm. The red line represents the maximum you can go to. Any other questions, comments, concerns on surplus or anything earlier that we've talked about tonight? All right, a word or two about the audit. I come in with a team of about 4 or 5 people, and we look at everything from bank statements to financial reports to food service stuff to student enrollment records to transportation to bids awarded and things of that nature. The results of the audit this year had one recommendation, and it's a repeat of a prior recommendation regarding the collection of outstanding point of sale balances in the cafeteria fund. The balance is still relatively high, and the district should continue making all and any efforts to collect on that.
Is that a corrective plan that every district, I mean, is every district dealing with the same issue?
I have some districts that are getting that recommendation. Not all of them have it, but I am seeing that pop up a bit more in some districts.
What are the districts who don't? Like, how do they collect that money? It seems like even the corrective action plan almost all those steps we've already been doing, or they've been added this year. So what do other districts do that to solve that problem?
Actually, I think Highland Park is the most proactive district I've seen in dealing with this. And it's sometimes you can try, and we're getting blood from a stone, which appears to be the case here. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Just a high level, where, when we receive title funds, is that represented in?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the
Ti-
question?
title.
Oh, Mike, too, please.
Okay, okay, that's under the red federal sources.
Oh, right. All federal grants. That for Highland Park, the big 1-2 punch here is the title grants, as you mentioned, Title I, and the IDEA special education grants. And those will be included in the red section.
Thank you.
Okay, should any other questions, comments, concerns materialize? Feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is right up below on the bottom slide. Email me. Feel free to reach out and call. Other than that, it's been my pleasure to talk to the board again tonight. Have a great holiday season.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
You get a special award for remembering.
I would just like to say, thank John, staff, helping my part. It was another transition year, and I think we actually got to our groove this year. So I just want to thank you for your patience and your support. And to my business office members and staff, I couldn't do this without them. And this audit was a reflection of their hard work and dedication to the community and to the students of Highland Park. So thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, we will be moving on to our first public comment of the evening. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Board policy number 0167 establishes and regulates the right of the public to participate in public meetings. There's nobody here in person to comment. How many people do we have on our webinar? 3. If you are here for a public comment, please raise your hand and Angelo will unmute you. Ten more seconds. I don't want to.
Good way.
I'm using my teacher wait time. Yeah. And with no hands raised, we are going to close public comment. We will move on to our committee reports and recommendations with curriculum and instruction first.
Curriculum instruction met on December 16th. We talked about the math curriculum pilot. We have figured out that we will be piloting 4 different curricula: Clear Math, Into Math, Eureka, and Envision. 1 class per grade level will participate in the pilot, and that is considering 4th and 5th grade as 1 grade since they're departmentalized. There will be professional development for the curricula in January, and then the pilot will start February 18th. It'll be completed by spring break. They're piloting geometry, a geometry or measurement unit in each curriculum, and costs are for the entire pilot are around $8,000, $9,000. That's to purchase the curricula and materials, gain access to the different resources. There's a rubric that will be used to evaluate the curricula, and program assessments will be used as well as a common measure across all the units to evaluate the success of the curricula. And so we're looking at multiple sort of assessments to see which curriculum is kind of working best in terms of, I think, teachers, in terms of students, on those specific units. So we are excited about that moving forward, and we'll evaluate those to see how they're working for the district. We also have benchmark data. These vary by grade level, depending specifically in ELA. Some are pre-assessment, some are comprehensive. and others only assess skills in that quarter. For Irving, Kinder had 53% of students at or above grade level. That was 49% last year, so a small increase. At first grade, it was 48% this year and 49% last year, so about the same. Just to give a sense for the first graders, they finished kindergartners. So this is assessing different skills, but with 66% at or above grade level. Yeah, at Bartle, at second grade, 65% of students were at or above grade level. At the end of first grade, those students were 61% on the first grade assessment. In third grade, there 62% of students were at or above grade level, and that was 53% at the end of second grade. In fourth grade, there were 56% at or above grade level, and that was 65% at the end of third grade. And at fifth grade, there were 56% at or above grade level, and that was 65% at the end of fourth grade. Last year, the Bartle numbers for the same benchmark were between 53 and 66%. So it's about the same as across grades. There wasn't really big shifts. So while I mentioned kind of prior years at the end of the year, those assessments aren't necessarily comparable, but students were generally around the same spot this year as the group was last year. And then in middle school for ELA, the students are between 56 and 69% at or above grade level. Those numbers were 41 to 46% for the same period last year. So it was a big increase. A lot of success at the middle school around ELA, which unfortunately will not be the story in math. As I transition to math benchmarks, K-5, we are now using Envision assessments. And for math, rather than at or above grade level, we're talking about how many students scored 60% or higher on the assessment. At Irving, for kinder, that was 49% of students, which was the same as last year. At first grade, it's 76%, and that number was 65% last year. So that looks really good at first grade. For those same students in first grade, 79% were at the 60% level at the end of kindergarten. So first grade is actually looking really good. In kinder, looks about the same as the group before. At Bartle, at second grade, 40% of those students were at that 60% kind of threshold. At the end of first grade, 89% of those students were at that threshold. Different skills being tested, so it's not comparable, right? And that's the fall assessment, so we'd expect kind of growth along the year. In third grade, 23% were at that threshold, and they were at 73% at the end of second grade. In fourth grade, 29%, and 43% of them were at that 60% threshold at the end of third grade. It's a lot of numbers. At fifth grade, they're at 41%, and they were at 51% at the end of fourth grade. Last year at Bartle, the grade levels ranged from 25 to 40% at that 60% threshold. So actually, the numbers are very, very similar. They're 23 to 40 to 41% instead of 25 to 41. So even though those sound a little bit low in the fall, they're very similar to last year. And so as we kind of see the growth across the year, it's not necessarily a ton of concern, even though we would like to see those, I think those numbers grow. That's also one of the reasons we're looking at the math curricula, right, to address and hopefully raise that floor a little bit. Big concern is at middle school. In middle school, the students are between 7 and 20%. Between 7 and 20% of students are at that 60% threshold. Those numbers were 28 to 61% last year. And there was a particular drop at seventh grade from about 60% down to 7%. And so those are really, really concerning. Yeah, and I don't think we totally understand why. But it might be something to look at in terms of curricula at middle school level 2, which is something we could consider moving forward. We did have an issue in middle school 2 years ago. That was particularly, I think, at 7th grade, and we had a lot of teacher turnover. That doesn't seem to be the case here. And so I think that's something we just have to look at and try to figure out. Yeah, so that's the big news. We also have a proposal for a Schedule B for K-pop. This is being recommended by the Schedule B committee, which means it would be in the budget and funded in the fall of 2026, not currently. We also looked at the policy for head lice. We didn't have any concerns with that. And lastly, we had field trips. So the robotics club is doing STEM projects with Irving students, Science Bowl Club competitions in Princeton. Middle school is going to the Liberty Science Center, and Model UN is going to New Brunswick and Philly for a few highlights. Yeah, and then in terms of voting, we have approval of field trips, and I have a read-in for this. The field trip to downtown Metuchen, the updated cost is $171.10, and there are 11 chaperones rather than 10. We also have approval of 3 HIB reports. 2 of them have been confirmed, 1 unconfirmed. Approval of the fall school emergency evacuation drill report. Approval of home instruction for 1 student. Approval of Schedule B athletic schedules for the winter season. Approval of sidebar agreement between the Highland between the Board of Ed and the Highland Park Education Association. Approval of Schedule B proposal, that's the K-pop proposal I just mentioned. And then approval of 1 student placement, university student placement at Bartle. Any questions?
When you pilot the math pilot, I probably should know this. When you pilot the math programs, the goal is to choose 1 to move forward.
Yes.
Following year. Okay.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, the goal is to go through these, choose 1 and fully implement it in the fall. Yeah.
Question regarding the middle school math. I'm curious if there was discussion around whether those benchmark numbers are reflected in like the actual term grades, right? So are most students, at 7 to 20% passing, or are those grades higher? And then, why does that discrepancy exist? So it's just a question maybe that we could look into.
Yeah, we don't
in the
ever,
future.
that's a great, doing the individual kind of relationship there, because ultimately you're going to want to see that it's predictive of something. And if it's not, then that kind of tells you something else. I don't think it's a good idea to look at the individual level data, but we did talk about how complicated the data sources are to put them all together. So there's some discussion on how we can kind of piece together the benchmarks and, different other indicators to be able to get more of a holistic picture. My sense from our conversation was just it's really hard to kind of do those kind of analyses at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, this is more from memory, but I do remember from 2 years ago, like when we had a lot of the teacher turnover, like in 7th grade math, you could see that on standardized tests, and that seemed to be a bit of a shift, I think, a year ago, which might mean this is a concern, but I don't think we didn't really talk about, like, is this reflected in their kind of grades and the grading and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, my guess, I haven't looked at them, but my guess is that, it's hard because there are grades associated with marking period are of a lot of things. We don't use, once you hit middle school, you don't use a standard-based grading approach. So it's really hard to unpack a student's score to say if they are operating at a C or a D, let's say, for marking period 1, what is that indicative of? Is that, what is it measuring? what does an A mean? What does B mean? What does C mean? What does the D mean? Is that just because of there's like a lack of effort? Is there just a lack of understanding? If somebody doesn't turn something in, right, there's a consequence for that comes with the grade versus doing something and not being successful. So I just caution sometimes our marking period grades are not indicative sometimes of a whole picture approach to what is the ability to do the math skills and a deep understanding. And sometimes it goes the opposite too, where there's I hate to say it, but sometimes an inflated score, right? Where it's like, well, they're putting forth effort and they're trying and I'm giving them extra credit and, things like that. And so, it's what does the score really mean? And it's very hard once you hit the secondary world because it's not standards based. So it's not broken up. If you look at an elementary report card, it's broken up. You can see how your child's doing at adding single addition numbers, adding double digit numbers, multiplying numbers, right? It's very skill based. Once you hit the middle school, unfortunately, it's not anymore. It's a whole nother story I can go on for that we all know.
Yeah.
How I feel. We all know how I feel about that. One day in a perfect world, we would get there. But that's a huge shift. But that's a big problem when you're trying to compare. It's really hard to compare an assessment score, pre-assessment or assessment score, Q1 versus what their marking period scores are.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing, like just thinking about, I was also thinking about the cell phone policy, right? And how that's impacting, particularly middle school, like where it's the kind of the biggest shift, right? And so
I'm sorry, Dan, what?
the cell phone policy.
Oh, the cell phone policy.
So if you look at ELA, you'd interpret that cell phone policy really positively, right? Like every grade's going up 15 to 20%, like in the same exact ELA assessment from a year ago, right? Which is phenomenal growth, right? And then you look at math and you're like, right? So I don't know there any conclusions can be kind of made on that. We did talk about ELA, and this is kind of the second year they've kind of been in implementing some things, and they feel like there's kind of more understanding, more consistency, and but I do think you could, I think, interpret it as like some of the kind of investment in professional development, kind of working through and common assessments and that kind of stuff, maybe seem to be really paying off, which is typically around second, third year professional development. So through one lens, if we kind of can maintain this, and then that could definitely be an interpretation. We haven't invested like in middle school math, I don't think, in the same way, or even Bartle. And so I think, I think the hope would be that it's just a weird outlier, a weird assessment. But it also probably speaks to, investing more in kind of improving instruction at that level.
Great.
Well, I think Allison, I think your question is really important because I mean, as a parent, you often, you look at your kids' grades, that helps you, okay, they need to spend a little bit more time after school on the homework. Do we need to figure out tutoring, or, should they just, be paying better attention to class? If you depend on the grades for that signal. So no one likes a kid to get bad grades, but if the grades are not, if we look at the average of how the kids are doing in the classes, and it hasn't changed that much from year to year, but the assessment's one way down, we probably have to take another look at how we, our standards for the grading, because we need to get that early warning before they show up in the assessments and sort of, tank it.
Which is why I like that the benchmarks are being sent home now for both ELA and math, at least at Bartle, at the middle school too. Yep. At the middle school too. So at least, you have that also to look at when you're looking at how your kid's performing in school. Great.
I think it was encouraging and I think really helpful to hear in our conversation in committee that there had been a lot of investment in English language arts over the past few years. It seems to be paying off, and hopefully, I think if we, kind of now turn our attention to math, we can accomplish the same thing.
Yeah, and we talked about just with COVID, how nationwide a lot of the investment was on ELA, because that's the kind of lag that you see first. And now also nationwide, we're seeing kind of more of an emphasis on math, and it's not just unique to us, really.
Okay. Any other questions?
I was actually wondering if you could clarify on what you said about like K-pop. I didn't really catch it.
Say about what?
She's asking about K-pop,
The-
new
yeah.
extracurricular.
what that means is that it would be a funded role for someone to take on to oversee that club,
Okay.
the K-pop club.
Thank you. Do you want?
I just have I'm just curious because it seems that like COVID time seems to have really affected our math scores. And it's not just us, it's a lot of people, a lot of schools in the nation. But one of the things I did notice is the trend after COVID of going from some textbooks to doing everything online. And maybe that format may not be the right thing for math. Like it could work for ELA, but maybe math needs to be a little bit more tangible or have an easier reference to find. I'm just curious.
I don't know if that's actually true of our middle
Yeah,
school.
none of ours, no. So they all are, we've invested heavily over the years on the manipulatives. So we still really hyper focus on that, where our students go from the concrete to the iconic to the symbolic. So they should have the manipulatives first, and then the sort of drawing part to create a mental representation of that, and then to the more abstract thinking of it. So, I mean, we have, that is like fully out there. I mean, every student gets a set of fraction tiles, every students get base 10 blocks. Like we have enough for every student to have that. And there's a lot of focus on the manipulatives part of the learning before they go into the abstract. So I don't actually see in math, at least at the K-5 level, even at the middle school, when we're in middle school math classrooms, we see it as a station, like they'll be on Delta Math or IXL. But that's, but when they're in whole group or when they're working through small group, they're with pen and paper, manipulatives, line graph charts, they're up and moving for 4 quadrants in a room and things like that. So the tech is really one small portion when they're in a centers or a station rotation model.
And we did talk about that, especially in K-5, as, an important part is to think about when when they're being piloted and looking at the intentional balance of technology with the math. And, it's if you use technology, it shouldn't be the goal, right? The goal should be the pedagogical approach and the extension of that. And so I think that the folks, and that's going to be integrated into the rubric as they analyze what to use.
Is it something that we're looking at from like 6th through high school though?
No, so right now we're focusing on the K-5 space, just because that is an area where we probably have our weakest, our weakest need right now, just because it's, kindergarten isn't a required grade level. So, they hit first. And so we're really trying, that's, because once they get tested, they're in 3rd grade. But by then it's like, okay, well, if we have these gaps, then all of a sudden now we're kind of stuck in this 3rd grade area of that testing. So our focus is really trying to help the K-5 space. Then hopefully over time that will help if we can increase our achievement there and sort of a number sense understanding and things like that. Then hopefully by the time they get to middle school, maybe that gap will be less and less. But to what Dr. Beatty was saying, it would behoove us to consider when we decide on a program for the middle school, for the elementary space is, maybe looking at the middle school curricula and kind of getting an idea of like, are there more resources that we need in that space too? Is there something more that we could be doing versus what we're currently doing there to help?
So our theory right now is that we need more of a foundation and focus on a foundation. So in the future,
correct,
they have an easier time.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yeah. To your point again, you're generally right. There has been a big shift, like especially in elementary math, to rely on the online resources by a lot of teachers, to the point, and we actually did talk about this, where some teachers are using the videos attached to curriculum for primary instruction, which is a big problem. Because that video doesn't know your kids. It just presents a 3-minute kind of instructional, thing. And so you're releasing the instructional responsibility to a curriculum rather than a professional teacher making those choices. And so I have seen that in a number of districts, and it's really concerning. I don't think so it's one of my worries as we take on curriculum that you actually get teachers like too reliant on aspects of it that actually reduce the quality of instruction. So it is a concern. And I think it's something we kind of want to consider and kind of monitor as we, purchase curricula and that kind of a thing, that it's much more of a resource than something that you stick to and release your kind of professional judgment around as a teacher. At the same time, you know, you're hoping that the curriculum kind of raises the floor so teachers aren't making choices to kind of, reduce the kind of cognitive demand of a curriculum and so forth. So it is a concern even as we kind of move into that space, I would say.
Thank you.
And I just want to add to that too, one of the hopes for in that K-5 space for that resource too, an area that we know our teachers sometimes struggle with is our students that need to be enriched beyond what the grade level standard is, and that becomes a big challenge in that space. We have some exceptional students, and sometimes it's beyond the capacity of what our teachers maybe can handle. So oftentimes it becomes, just do a little bit more, or make a project, make a poster, and that's not really conducive to what it means to go deeper in that standard or enrich them. So we're hoping that this can provide is that differentiated piece to meet the needs of all learners, because that's definitely an area that we're finding weakness. So we're hoping that it closes that gap as well.
That's really great to hear. I just wanted to add another part that I've noticed in later grammar school and then also into middle school is that the kids, maybe some of the kids really know what they're doing and how to follow along, but the parents don't. So I don't, if they need help with something, a lot of parents don't know, myself included, where to go. When you had a textbook, and I'm not a big fan of textbooks in general, but this is one case that it was easier to see, okay, we're on chapter 5 and the homework tonight is on chapter 5. So I can refer to that to see what they should know. And maybe once it gets into some of the higher level stuff, I might not remember it. So, it's helpful to have a book or some resource to go back to. So I know it's there because the kids know where to find it, but the parents might not know where to go or how to help them. So maybe more communication with parents. Here's what you can do to help with this marking period or whatever. So
I love that. Thinking about how to engage the parents, especially at the middle school level. I think that's really great.
Yeah,
Something to look
because
into.
it isn't easy to find. And don't tell me to go to Khan Academy.
I've Googled some equations.
All right. We'll move to equity and excellence. Nikki?
So, sorry. In equity and excellence, we also went through the head lice, pediculosis. So we did discuss that, and I don't think that we really changed anything. We kind of just stayed with the Strauss as me policy. The other thing that we talked about was the new club for the K-pop. Went through the process. I went through the process of identifying a volunteer to run it. And we reviewed a stipend proposal for about 50 hours. And if it's approved, there'll be a stipend paid position in the new budget. Let's see. Okay. So we did talk about with the special education program evaluation, the updates from Comengo. And the process included review and analysis of hundreds of documents provided by the administration survey from staff and parents last spring. And on December 3rd, Christina and Amy Coppola met with Comengo team to review the first Strauss report. Areas of growth and need were cited. The next step will be to dig deeper into the data that came out from the document review. Starting in January, Comengo will meet with the child study team members and will conduct focus groups and interviews. And PD will be scheduled later in the spring to address issues identified. One issue already being addressed is the need for more consistency in using templates for present levels in an IEP. A lot of concerns were around inconsistency, and teachers and child study team, acronyms, does a good job of using present levels, but the template will help improve consistency, and new templates are already being implemented. And the Comengo team offered to support CPAG during their leadership transition. Status report 2 will be available after the focus group meetings and interviews are conducted and analyzed. Amy and Christina will meet with SPAN and the Bridge program, and will review SPAN startup package. Where am I? And Bridge will attend the CPEG's first event on January 14th at 6 p.m. in the middle school cafeteria, and babysitting and translation will be provided. Bridge is a resource that is helping the district through the transition. A survey will go out before the meeting to gather feedback on topics of interest and preferred meeting times. And we also went over AP honors demographics. The committee reviewed AP honors demographic percentages. Genesis tag data was used to identify students enrolled in AP honors classes. All students who are in at least one AP honors class are flagged as tag in Genesis. Total students flagged were 287. The data table shows the demographic breakdown of students enrolled in AP honors. The committee requested percentages based on total population of each demographic group. And then ELA math opportunities. Christina provided an overview of the supports currently in place to strengthen student achievement as guided by benchmark assessment data and NJSLA results. IXL digital math resource to support student learning and growth in mathematics. Read 180 is a resource to support both foundational reading skills and comprehension development for students with identified gaps in ELA. And ELA interventionist, at Irving and Bartle, receiving specialized training on diagnostic assessments to more precisely identify students' skill gaps with a particular focus on reading comprehension. And what else is there? Okay, so we have a part-time math interventionist to provide instructional support through push-in services for kindergarten and grade 1 classrooms, pull out small group interventions for grade 1 students, staffing and support for multilingual learners, established a consistent ESL teacher at the middle school, purchase of additional instructional resources tailored to ML needs for the middle school. There's hired a new ESL teacher at Bartle who began mid-November, and co-teaching professional development, additional math assistance. And then targeted programs, the Title I program that required multiple data points for student participation. Brothers Mentoring, Bartle has 15 students invited, 7 currently participating. The middle school, there's 36 students invited, 11 currently participating. Academic enrichment at the middle school is designed to support students performing below grade level and or not meeting NJSLA proficiency benchmarks. 84 students were invited, 15 students are attending. WISE Connection at the middle school, this is an attendance support program aimed at improving engagement and attendance and tardiness. 73 students were invited, 12 students are attending. Families were contacted via email and postal mail with follow-up phone calls made for those who did not respond. The committee discussed the low participation rates in the middle school academic enrichment and WISE Connection. And then our next steps, am I reading that too? The next steps? They're not my notes. Just
Yes.
okay. All right. So our next steps are data review and intervention refinement. We meet with the interventionist to review progress mentoring data, identify students who are not making expected growth, determine possible root causes, and adjust instructional approaches as needed. Use grade level team meetings to analyze progress data and collaboratively develop next instructional steps for students requiring additional support. And data systems enhancement, pilot link in a data warehousing platform that supports a whole child approach to tracking and analyzing student performance across academics, attendance, and behavioral indicators. The system will improve access to actionable data to inform instructional decision-making. And when it comes to discipline, for November, Bartle had 7 total incidents, 0 in-school suspensions, 1. Oh, wait, hold on. This is that out of school?
OSS.
What, they both say ISS.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, so it's probably 1 OSS, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, the middle school discipline data not provided yet. let's see, there, in the high school, 40 incidents, 1 in-school suspension and 1 out-of-school suspension. We have relatively low student removals. Shorter month may have contributed to a lower number of incidents at Bartle. Our second grader's adjustment period is easing. And that is all.
Well, can I just add a piece that the CPAG meeting has to be rescheduled to the end of January? There's a tentative date on the calendar, but I don't want to make it public yet. We're still working with Bridge to confirm that. And a couple of the parents that have reached out to Ms. Coppola saying they were interested in CPAG leadership, we're coordinating to make sure everyone's schedules align. So we have a couple representatives from Bridge that will be working with us, and we feel it's important to have everybody all together for our first meeting. So what we had a tentative date on the calendar, but we moved it to the end of January. But it's on there, and I think we're all confirmed. So once we are, we will shout that out. We're very excited. We're not going past January without that first meeting.
Any questions for equity and excellence?
Yeah, just on my mind, when you something in there about the intervention, and it made me think the conversation that we had kind of a little here and there, and I'm just curious, how many for follow-up, how many students actually are in intervention both for math and ELA? And when we think about, like, I'm curious how many of those students exist, because those are the ones that you worry about where you have to pull them from core. And so it just could be something we might want to dig deeper into.
Like K-12?
Or middle school.
Middle
Yeah.
school? Do you have like a particular
I would
grade
say-
span?
Say K8 would be, and really K5 is where you worry about pulling out from core instruction when they're in both ELA and math. It's just a thought that I had.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably give you estimate. I could probably give you estimated numbers, but remember, there's like an exit in and exit out criteria, and we do exit students. So, like the number we would give, it could be like an estimate, but like that definitive number might be hard because we do like to exit students, and we are exiting students successfully. So that's also like if I give you a number, it's not that's set in stone. It could fluctuate. So, but it's good to know a general number.
Yeah, and then I would also say what was brought up about that Linkit pilot, that's something that we talked about as well, which when we're thinking about getting underneath the data, having understanding segmentation and all kind of the holistic individual and being able to look at progress, that's really going to help us in curriculum instruction as well when we're trying to evaluate where there might be some breakdowns and kind of root cause some of the challenges.
Yeah.
I think one of the issues too with intervention is at the middle school where we've had, I think, a really difficult time getting students and parents to opt into it, which actually hasn't been as much of an issue, I think, K5.
Correct.
Right? But I think that's reflective of some of those lower participation kind of numbers. And so it's probably not as much of an issue, I'm guessing, in the middle school because there aren't that many students like opting in, and if they do opt in, I believe it's like losing world language or something like that, right?
And then a lot of, but we could give you a list of some students that qualify, right, for both. Because in middle school, that's what we're finding is students qualify for both the ELA and the math, and then sort of a choice has to be made if they want to opt in, and then loss of the world language becomes a problem.
I think the fact that so few are taking advantage of it, like we can list all the things that this district is offering, but I don't know, the 15, I forget what you said, 84 were invited.
Yeah.
15. I mean,
84.
and yeah, I mean, it's.
And I did follow up with that, and Miss Brady did indicate that they made phone calls in several languages home. The snail mail and email went out, and so they really were,
And it's during
just calling until someone picked up the phone to just even let them know that this was an option. And, the federal dollars are going for that specifically, especially at the middle school, because we get more federal dollars there than any other buildings to be able to close these gaps.
This is after school instruction?
That's
or
after school.
Instruction.
Yeah.
That's really concerning. Even that the Big Brothers mentoring is, such a great program. And
Yeah. Well, because I was curious if once you hit middle school, are they, wanting to play sports or do a little, there's more activities after school once you hit middle school than at Bartle. But that isn't necessarily what I found was the case. It's not about that. It's just that, parents are just not responding to opt their kids in to the program or declining altogether.
Sure, this is like they're more social, they're more autonomous. Surely this is an issue. Look, I'd be curious to see if there's like best practices and how you can get incentivize folks to opt in.
Yeah.
I don't know if someone's done it really well.
I don't know.
That's all I got.
All right. Finance and facilities.
Okay, Finance Facilities met on December the 9th. And it was Jen and myself from the board and Dr. Suska, Mr. Rosa, and John Flanagan from Facilities. We reviewed the agenda items, which was about the audit that we heard tonight. So on the agenda, you'll see we're voting to approve, to accept this audit, and then accept the corrective action plan that we spoke about tonight. Other agenda item is there's an additional bill list through January 9th, so we can pay our bills because we're not meeting until later in the month, particularly utility and construction bills. Under facilities, you'll see on the agenda a lot of projects moving forward. Replacement of fire alarms, the high school and the middle school, where's that never-ending barn structural repair. And then the bleachers, a lot of that was coming through the tax levy incentive, and that work is now either beginning or has begun, and is, you know, they're all working on a lot of work going on. The headlights, we were fine with the two. It's finally here for first read. We reviewed a report from Champions of the before and after care. And had a conversation there about feedback to Champions. They believe they've done a survey. We're going to hear the results of that in a future meeting. Facilities work has been completed on the baseball field. Fencing is up, sod is up, open items. They're working on signage and the entranceway, and that's working with the HP boosters on that. The bottle bathroom is moving along smoothly. We passed our additional inspections, the walls are up. Bids are in for the, we have that on our agenda, bids for the Irving preschool classroom that's going to be, it's going to be added. And we had a conversation again about what we called it the greenhouse project. It's no longer a greenhouse project, but it's money that we have that we're looking towards a potential makerspace and environmental sustainability area at the high school. Still in the discussion phases, but a vendor was coming in to give us quotes for furniture and so forth, so we can get a sense of what that's going to cost, and maybe we can do both projects in lieu of the greenhouse. And just for future, we had asked to that a future finance facilities meeting to keep an eye on field trips and how groups are managing the fundraising expectations, if that's impacting whether the trips can go on or not, and how, just in general, we want to how things are going there as the year progresses. On the agenda, we have our monthly bill list. We have that additional one for January 9th. There are all the reports, budget transfers. Number 7 is accepting this audit report that we reviewed today. And number 8 is that corrective action plan related to the outstanding money owed for lunches that each time we keep getting dinged on. However, as our auditor pointed out, we're doing everything and more to try to bring that money in to get that number to go down. Number 9 is travel and related expenses. And we had I have two read-ins for number 9, adding 2 people for travel, Esther Torsky on January 8th for a professional learning community cohort. And an additional read-in, Holly Morales, January 21st, for basic K-12 behavioral threat assessment and management training. So that's added to that portion. Then we have our contractors for professional development, which is number 10. Lots of things happening there. We have an additional contractor for related services, Invo Healthcare, for when we would need additional learning disability teacher consultant time. We have a number of grants funds that we're voting on tonight. One is $500 from the Mark Schoenwelder Holocaust Education Foundation. That's for the high school. We have a STEM grant from Bentley Systems for the high school robotics program. And that's for $1,000. We have an adjustment on one salary, onto number 14. It's related to a position being part of an IDA federal grant. It's just, I think it's just allocating where the portion of our salary is going. We have 2 pass-throughs for non-public school. One is a math license and one is an armed guard for Charlotte Sion girls' school. Again, those are not our funds. We just are required to vote to pass them so that they can get their funding. We have 5 students on bedside instruction listed here, 1 out of district placement. Number 19 is being tabled, so we'll take that off the list. That's the settlement agreement is being tabled for now. And then you see some of the facilities work, the high school bleachers, motorization of the high school bleachers, some repairs and some motorization, and who's being awarded those contracts. And also repairs and replacement of bleacher seats at the middle school. And that's who's getting that, who's going to be doing that work. Door hardware at the high school, the fire alarm panel replacement at the high school, middle school. There's lots of work going on. Additional architectural services needed for the Bartle structural repair. And roofing repairs at the high school. Need to repair a leak in the high school main office. So more high school roofing work to be done. HVAC at the middle school and high school. Some work there is outlined here. Who's doing it? 28 are, I think last month we talked about change orders that are needed and increasing the the amount that we need to spend in order to do some of the work that was hidden that's been unfolding as demolition took place. So these are some of the change orders listed here. And awarding number 29 is awarding the bid for the cafeteria alteration for the preschool classroom at Irving. So those bids came in. We actually got 9 bids, and we're looking to award that bid for $389,500 to Drill Construction in West Orange. And there's a number 30 read-in, which is approval of purchase of Chromebooks. And it's kind of like a little bit lengthy, it's got a lot of numbers, but I'll read it in. I move the Board of Education accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the purchase of 66 HP Pro X360 Fortis 11G3 TS Chromebooks. I'm going to skip a few of the numbers from Vivacity Tech PBC and out of Minnesota in the amount of $26,994. Pricing is covered under a state contract, NASPO NJHP MO 4. I don't know if you're not to read this 24 TL 72087. You guys don't have it in front of you, so I feel like I have to read it. So that's number 30. Oh, you do?
I do.
Oh, okay. Anyway, it's number 30. It's purchase of Chromebook, additional 66 Chromebooks, and that's the agenda. I mean, that's the finance and facilities agenda. Any questions?
Yes, the question is, the Chromebooks, are they purchased as replacements or new enrollment or anything?
So new enrollment in order to pilot the math programs that we are trying to do at the lower elementary at Irving. So many years ago when we were in COVID, we had purchased tablets for them, but they've aged out and we never replaced them because we don't really do much tech type of work in those classes. But in order to do the pilot at those levels for the different curricula, it is required that there are some devices available to the students. That's why it's not a lot. It's not one per kid. It's not a one-to-one situation, but there are in part of their rotation, some like a station rotation model. They do have to have access to some devices. So they're actually touchscreen, because that's developmentally appropriate for students at Irving. So it's not a one-to-one, the kids are not getting devices, but they're in the classrooms for when it's needed to be able to pilot all the programs that require some portion of it.
So they're not being taken home
No.
or something.
No, the only ones that go home still are 4 through 12. And they're not one-to-one for Irving. That's why there's only 66. There's a couple for each school class. Which we've had since I've been here. We've always had a cart available to them, but we never replaced them because during COVID we didn't, because COVID was a one-to-one. We had to give out the tablets, and then when we came back from COVID, we still had some of the tablets that were able to serve as in-class devices for like touch math or splash math or things like that when they would do a station. But they've since have seen better days. Angela's laughing because he knows they're pretty much all gone at this point. So we need to replace them with something. So that's why we have classes, like class sets, a little bit in each classroom to be able to pilot different components of the math resource that we're looking to purchase.
So, depending on whatever one you select, would we need to purchase additional, for when you actually roll out and do a full implementation? Or
I mean,
is it not-
I think this would be enough because none of them are where it's a requirement that it's like each student needs a device to be on the device. It's, therefore like a station rotation model. So there's a little bit of an online component to some of them. And that is part of the rubric for evaluation too. It's like how much tech is required? Is it too much tech time? So all of that is part of the requirement when we evaluate these type of curriculum or resources.
If the teachers decide, or the administration decides to go with a different curriculum and doesn't use the tech, are we stuck with them? I mean,
Yes.
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 What would happen then?
We could definitely use them for loaner devices because especially at the middle school, they seem to either leave them at home or destroy them quickly. I mean, so what happens if they get ruined? We send them out to be serviced through a company. But in the meantime, if our students need them, they can go down and pick up a loaner. So I'm guessing between that and our staff, there's no they're not going to collect dust.
So, well, you think too, like, and we'll select one out of the four. And anyway, when we think about like what you have in a 60-minute block, there should always be room for enhancement or something available for those who need to do personalized instruction, as long as it's like done in a meaningful way. And so that is something you would want access to, I think, dependent, regardless of what actual product you select.
Yeah.
Any other questions for finance and facilities? Okay, I will review the personnel agenda. So number one is the approval of leaves of absences. We have a leave of absence, maternity leaves and medical leaves as listed. There's the approval of one resignation. Ms. Begonia is resigning from the newspaper at the middle school. We have some appointments. Mr. Presti is going to be taking over for the orchestra director. That's because Nick Perez did accept a new position elsewhere, so he's going to be filling in, or has been filling in until the 4th. Erica Hernandez is new paraprofessional at Bartle. Ms. Gore is taking over the climate and culture specialist at the high school. And then Ms. Ailey and Ms. Carter are also taking on that middle school newspaper Schedule B. We have Cornelius O'Keefe for track and field. And then G through M is all different sports roles. So ticket taker, security, scorekeeper, all of those things. N through T are class coverages. And this is to allow for that $2 extra compensation for when these are paraprofessionals need to go into a more restrictive setting with some of the students that have more severe needs. We have boys basketball leave replacement, Derek Gamble. We have a chaperone for the swim tournament, Miss Landis. We have Spanish translators, and some event monitors here. An HVAC maintenance helper. And that's to increase the hours that this person is helping us out. We have Schedule B orchestra coverage for the middle school. That's Ms. Chavarro. Ms. Fernstadt's going to be doing lesson planning. Ms. Strockman and Ms. Young's also lesson planning and grading for coverage leave. For a leave. Okay, for multiple types of leaves. There we go. The number 4 is the approval of professional development presenters and presentation hours. So you can see those as listed. And then that's it. Okay, any questions?
I'm excited about Digital Zen Part 2. We didn't really hear about how Part 1 went, but that really sounds interesting.
Yeah, Miss Cropsey's really busy.
Yeah.
It's PG. So thank you. Thank you for all of the people who are trying to run PD in the PD Academy. And then for policies and regulations, we do have our management of pediculosis, the lice policy. We are very excited to pass that forward for first reading. We do have 2 policies for second reading, which are the organizational chart and the control of communicable disease. And that concludes our reports. So we will move to our second public comment. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. We have nobody in person. Angela, how many do we have online? 3. If anybody is online for public comment, please raise your hand and Angela will assist and unmute you. All right, Abby, go ahead.
Hi, Abby Stern Cardinal. So first, I just wanted to say, just like you said, I'm unreasonably excited about the lice policy. So thank you for working on that so diligently, and I really hope that that helps. And maybe one day I can send my kids to school not in braids, without being terrified. So additionally, I wanted to make a couple of questions and comments about some of the math pilot. Actually, before I say that, I'm wondering, there were a lot of numbers that Dr. Beatty went over about benchmark, and I'm wondering if those could be shared. I'm happy to email, or if that can be shared publicly, because there were a lot of, it just went really fast, and it would be helpful and interesting to see for the community. With regard to the math pilot, I'll try to not be too confusing, because I was trying to process everything that you were saying and look at the agenda as well. One concern that comes to mind is doing all 4. I'm concerned that doing all 4 pilots at once is spreading us very thin in terms of resources and professional development. So I just wanted to mention that. I also am concerned that, I mean, I would like to see a curriculum implemented as soon as possible. So I absolutely see, doing as many as we can and finding the right one. But there are some concerns about, like I said, the professional development and collaboration with other grade level teachers when trying a pilot. And since there will be 1 class per grade, I know there'll be other grades, but I'm wondering if that would impact kind of not only the potential success, but just the ability to implement a pilot where it's really just 1 teacher per grade on their own, and also only one unit. So it seems like it's not much data that's getting collected for a pilot. And then doing all 4 at once, I just want to make sure that we're getting the right curriculum if we're spending money and time. And last year, I know there was the pilot in first grade for Envisions, and I'm not sure what happened with that data, but I would just hate to see, another pilot and then deciding we don't have the right information or enough information, or we had too many kind of questions that came up and we won't be able to actually move forward at the end of this. So I guess I would just ask that you think about how to make sure that there is support for those teachers, or at least discuss some of those things. And on that note, I'm wondering if the previous pilot data from last year can be shared now that that is over. What was evaluated there, what came of it, and how that's going to be incorporated along with the new data, and will it be used at all along with this that we're getting this year? And then a couple other really quick questions, and I know I'm not going to get the answers right now, but I don't know if maybe you'll mention them later. If not, I'm happy to send a follow-up kind of summarizing. The Eureka math, I didn't see it on the professional development list. It's possible maybe you'll do that at the next meeting, so I might have been missing it. But I would assume if that's one of them, that there would be some professional development for those teachers as well. So I just was wondering about that. And if that's one of the ones being implemented, how that's being handled. And then I think my last question is, I noticed under Travel and related expense reimbursement that for Irving, there's something about evaluating pilot math programs, but I didn't see something for Bartle. So I was just hoping that there was something equivalent where someone is being designated or there's, a way that Bartle is also having a robust evaluation along with Irving. So I think that was it. I'm really interested in seeing how this goes, and I'm excited that this is getting so much attention and that we're going to get a really good math curriculum for these grades. I think that's excellent. So thank you for all the work you're doing.
Thank you, Abby.
Sorry
Is
for
there
saying so much.
No problem. Thanks so much. Okay, anybody else online for public comment? Can raise your hand. And with no hands raised, we will close public comment. We will now move to our action items. We'll start with curriculum and instruction.
For curriculum instruction, I move items 1 through 8.
Second?
Dr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mrs. Cloud?
Yes.
Dr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mrs. Bruce?
Yes.
Dr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Senior?
Yes.
Yes, except for number 1, no on medieval times, 7th grade trip.
Finance and facilities.
I move items, what are now items 1 through 30, and that includes the 2 additional people that I talked about under travel. Tabling number 19, which is the settlement we're not voting on, and the Chromebooks, number 30.
Second?
Dr. Beatty?
Yes.
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 Mrs. Bruce?
Yes.
Dr. Coleman?
Yes.
Senior?
Yes.
Yes.
For personnel, I'd like to move items 1 through 4.
Seconded.
Beatty?
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mrs. Bruce?
Yes.
Dr. Sullivan?
Yes, and I want to say I'm really appreciative that we have orchestra teachers stepping out to teach the kids stringed instruments. They did a great job at the concert on this weekend.
Yes.
Yes.
And for policy and regulation, I'll move numbers 1 and 2.
Second.
Dr. Beatty?
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mrs. Bruce?
Yes.
Dr. Sullivan?
Yes.
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 Okay. We'll move on to our board liaison reports. Does anybody have a liaison report?
I have a comment from the Board of Health. I was unable to attend this month, but I asked them if they had anything for us to share. And so they did have a statement. I got some new contacts that don't really allow me to read, so I'm zoomed in, but it's still really blurry. So they just had a question about the health insurance premium increases. God, it really is hard to read. No, that's okay. I'll make it through. They just wanted to ask if we could potentially promote or distribute, maybe it's not even hurt. It's just this. It's all the board.
We wanted to ask the BOE if they could promote or distribute, et cetera, any material that either offer resources to people who have lost insurance or for the state children's insurance. So far, we don't have anything to promote, but wanted to put this on the BOE radar. Have a happy and healthy holiday season.
So much.
Thank you.
Yourself to see.
Any other liaison reports? Okay, for my president's report, again, I want to acknowledge Jen's last meeting. Thank you, Jen, for your service. We also want to extend, holiday greetings and best wishes for a very relaxing break to all of our staff who are so well deserved, and to, of course, all of our district families as well. We look forward to seeing you in the new year. Our reorganization meeting will be January 5th at 7 p.m. At that meeting, I will begin the meeting, at which point we then go through the process of electing a president, vice president, and then placements on committees and liaison positions. Where was I going with that? Oh. Jen obviously will be here, but we will be swearing in our new board member, Francisco Maldonado, and we are really excited to welcome him aboard. And that's it for my report. Any old business?
Just something about the benchmarks. I believe, yeah, well, pilot too, but I believe Mr. Rodriguez was talking about presenting in January on them, right? In terms of, or my knowledge.
She made a comment about it, but I'll follow up.
Right.
I was gonna say we could also, if you wanted to highlight some of the stuff as part of the board bulletin.
Right. So we could also share.
I put in my notes, maybe we want to put some of that out, the board
Right.
bulletin.
Yeah. I think the other thing too about the Irving pilot was that I've never seen a pilot where you only compare one curriculum to nothing. And so I think that was a concern there, even though I think teachers generally had a positive experience of that. And so I think the concern is we really want to find the kind of highest quality kind of curriculum that's really working for students. And oftentimes you compare about 3 or so. We're at 4. And so I understand the concerns too about the teacher workload and you know, co-planning if there's only one teacher and that kind of thing. So I think those are important things to kind of think through.
Yeah, and I think that was the idea of focusing on one module rather than a full implementation across 4. That would be much more challenging halfway through the year. So there was some thought put into how to make it as easy as possible for the teachers, if you could even say that, because it will be a little bit of adjustment. But.
Okay.
Stuff we've just voted on counts as old business, right? So it's like if we just voted on something, but I want to say something about it, that's old business. Okay. Yeah. So the extra, I guess they're not Chromebooks, are they sort of
Books, but they are touchscreen ones.
touchscreen Chromebooks. So I was actually happy to vote yes for this. I know I've been, pressing a bit in committee on, whether students to take Chromebooks home or are doing things with them online that aren't really part of their education, which is a big concern I have. But I do think that in a, controlled, supervised environment, if they're just being integrated into how a subject's being taught, that is an entirely appropriate use of technology. So these very same computers, I would have an issue voting for them if they were being taken home in the middle school. But sitting on the desks as part of a station rotation in the elementary school, that's fine.
All right. Any other old business? No? Change your mind?
No, I'm a new business.
Oh, okay. New business.
I had the pleasure to attend an event in the media center last Monday night. It was a collaboration between Dr. Adam Gold and Dr. Andy DeCalvo. Andy is a new faculty member at the Graduate School of Education. Dr. Gold is a high school teacher in Highland Park. And the very kind of cool part of this was that Dr. DeCalvo was bringing teachers in training, pre-service teachers, to high school students, where the high school students actually would go through a lesson, provide direct feedback and actually could pause lessons and provide feedback to the pre-service teachers. And it was just a very cool opportunity. This is something he does in his research, but this was not research. It was just him wanting to impact his kind of newer teachers. And it was fascinating to see the teachers and really kind of attend to what the students were saying in a different way as they were receiving feedback, and for them to take it really seriously. And for the high school students to be so engaged and provide really thoughtful, not necessarily what adults would provide like feedback on, but things that like what was most concerning to them or what it would take to engage them in this discussion more, like what teacher moves the teachers need. And it was very, very cool. And this was also Dr. Gold pulled students in due to the global kind of global citizen certificate. And so this was part of the ways they could actually use hours towards that certificate. So it was just a very nice kind of coming together, and I just wanted to highlight that and thank both Dr. Gold and Dr. Calvo for doing this and doing this in Highland Park. I think it's a very cool experience for high school students to think about teaching and the moves that teachers make, and for new becoming teachers to really attend to kind of what their students are actually saying and what the feedback they're providing. It's just very kind of innovative and cool, and I think it was great for both groups.
Thank you, Dan.
Sorry, Lami and I wanted to follow up about the PTSO participation. We're working with Student Congress to try and get like a campaign running, but we wanted to know if there were any reminders sent out in the meantime.
Which campaign is it?
The PTSO meeting to like attend the meetings.
Yes, I did see communication regarding attending the meeting. I was unable to attend, I'm sorry. But I did get the communication.
I wanted to congratulate our student rep Bree on her acceptance and commitment, right, to Tufts as a biochem major. I'm on that Instagram page. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other new business?
I attended the Bartle winter concert. It was wonderful. Yeah, I was really there. And it was wonderful because lots of students involved, and the music was good and people really enjoyed it. And the only thing I thought was sitting there is Bartle really needs a auditorium. I don't know, wish list. Yeah. But it really was, my teachers did a great job.
I just love the audience participation. I mean, the cat calls, I mean, in the best way. I mean, it's like being at a rock, what I imagine a rock concert is like. I haven't been to one in a while. But it's just like, it is just so much fun. There's so much like, engagement with the audience, and they're having a great time. It's cool to see.
Yeah, and I got to go to Bartle and the middle school winter concerts, and we have some really incredibly talented kids and teachers in this district. So I was really impressed with the music that I heard. It was really good.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Happy holidays, everyone.